Aloha, everyone. Just gonna wait for people to join us here. And as you come online, onto the Zoom and onto our Facebook sites and our partner Facebook sites, please let us know where you coming in from. Yeah, we're all of us people who are going to be presenting, all of us Kanaka who are going to be presenting today are coming from various parts of the island of Oahu. You know, so where are you guys coming in from? Let us know. Okay, I see.
Waikapu.
Oh, Waikapu, Maui.
Nisi Mali.
Aloha, Maui.
One of my favorite songs.
Aloha e kalehua. Today are coming from various parts of the island of Oahu. You know, so Maui. Is that sound coming from me?
Oh no, I'm setting my live to
Oh, okay.
Setting my live.
And then we have Kahana, Maui. Aloha and oh, holua loa kona. Aloha mai e mahina.
Setting my live to
Oh, and Makiki. And then we have Kahana. I think Makiki get the most people per square foot in all of Hawaii.
Makiki.
Oh, Waianae. Yeah, Makiki. I'm just making a guesstimate from the last time I drove through Makiki. Oh, right on. Waianae Valley Homestead. Yeehaw. And then again, everyone, welcome for joining us. We're just going to let more people come into the room at this time before we introduce our guest today. Oh, right on. Waianae Valley Homestead. Wait, I'm on a page right now. What am I on? Joining us. We're just going to... And I'll be... Also, if any of you guys have questions, please feel free to comment in the Zoom and also on the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Facebook page in the comments. We know we have a lot of partners out there that are cross-posting this. We can't monitor all of them with the level of commitment that we would like to, you know. So if you have a question that you'd like to pose for our guests today or for any of us today, if you can do that in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Facebook page or right here on Zoom if you're logged into the Zoom. One.
Aloha.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Aloha kako. Yeah, some of you guys who are joining us now, if you can just give a shout out, let us know where you tuning in from. I'm here in Aliamanu, Oahu. We have Davis. Oh, Davis, who is in Makiki also, and Hinale Moana up in Uwanu. And,
Aloha.
And our guest, Kawika, is out in Eva. Eva, are you out in Eva, Kawika?
Yeah. Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii. Yes.
Punia.
You can tell when you're from Hawaii because not that many people know where Hawaii is, and except people who live in Hawaii, they very sure to rep that area. Yeah. Mahalo nui. Oh, right on. We have some El Paso, Texas, Renton, Washington, and again, more people coming in from Waianae. Oh, and Kunia. Oh, yeah. There we go. Pava'a. See, what I love about this is when you guys are giving a shout out to your Aina, right? The Aina that you are living in or the Aina that you come from. It helps all of us, right, to learn more about our Aina and where our people are, you know, all coming in from. And these names, right? Some of these names have not been used in a long time or not well known, you know, to people. So please Shout out all of these beautiful Hawaiian names. And then for those of you guys who are on the continental US that are dialing in too, yep. You know, those names have mana too. So let's make ka'i to shout them out. Okay. Okay, now we got a good audience. Everybody is checking in from all over the place. So we have some people checking in from Facebook, from Kailua, from Colorado, from Hanapepe, Kauai. So aloha mai kako to all of you who are out there. You are tuning in, just in case you never know, you just kind of came across this live Facebook Live and Zoom webinar. You of course tuned in to Aloha Rising Vote 2020, which is a webinar series hosted and produced by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and our community outreach staff members to help our lahui, help our community learn more about civic engagement and learn about it from a perspective of from what our ancestors did and not too long ago, right? All the way up until, you know, the times that we're living in now, right? So we get to answer the question of why. Why should we as a lahui civically engage with what's going on around us? Yeah, and just wanted to give a shout out to another production that we're doing is Olakahaloa, which is a 30-minute TV show that we're doing on KGMB on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Yeah, and on that show, we hope to share with the lahui and share with all of Hawaii, actually, what OHA does. So you'll have some segments on there that discuss, you know, some of the programs that are coming out directly from OHA. And also it's our opportunity to amplify, you know, those voices in our community, those organizations that are doing great work to support our lahui and the well-being of all of Hawaii. Yeah, so join us this week on KGMB. You know, the guests that we have this week represent the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. So if you've ever wanted to know what does the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation do, we have Summer Silva, the executive director, who's going to be on the show. We also have one of the most staunch advocates of iwi kupuna to malama, iwi kupuna, Hui Aloha Aina, will be on the show this week, talking about repatriation and talking about the cultural practice of malama iwi kupuna. We also have Davis and Hina, our outreach, you know, our community outreach division, talking about this initiative right here, Aloha Rising Vote 2020, and giving more specifics on why that's important to us and the way that we're doing it now at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs under Davis's leadership there within that program. And we also have Alice Silvanus, who comes from our digital and print media program, that is going to share with everyone one of our platforms that was actually created a little while ago under former leadership of Kehawa Abad, Dr. Kehawa Abad. They created Kamaka Ko'i, which is an online platform that helps us share about some of the issues that are impacting our community very greatly. So there's videos on there, testimony on there, you know, papers on there that all have to do in the subject areas of water, of the public trust lands, of iwi kupuna, malama iwi kupuna. There's mele up on there too. So go check that out. And then I have a surprise guest from up Pi'iholo, Maui, and if many of you might know that there are very few residents up in Pi'iholo, Maui, and I'll give you a hint. It's a kumu hula that resides up there in the uplands. So come and join us as, you know, both he and I have a conversation about the largest cultural practice belonging to the Hawaiian people, and that's the cultural practice of hula and its resiliency through this time of COVID, and what kumu hula are doing to adapt, and what the hope is for the future, you know, and that practice that we both share. So mahalo. That's Olakahaloa. 6 p.m. KGMB. Now, today's show, we are privileged and honored to bring back a dear friend of ours, and he was for a period of time my boss. All of our bosses actually at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and that's Mr. Kawika Burgess. You know, and just a little bit about this man before he gets into his presentation. You know, Kawika is just one of the, and I told him this before the show. Kawika has a unique ability to me to cut through the noise. There's a lot of, when you do community work or when you do work for the Lahui, there can be a lot of noise in the environment. And what I mean by noise, it's either just bad energy or, you know, a lot of things that hamper what good solutions are, right? That sometimes prevent some of that from happening, right? There's a lot of things that come in between us and good work. And us meaning, you know, all of us out there who's trying to forward, you know, our people and Malama Hawaiʻi, right, for the long term. And although he has a very booming voice, right, that I love when he says something, he inspires and he commands attention that way. He also has that unique ability to cut through a lot of that noise that's out there and get to the point and be very, have clarity, have a sense of clarity around that, right? And he's steeped in a background of why he's doing his presentation today. You know, one of the things about his background that I so love, when I met him, when he was coming on as the CEO of OHA for that time period, you know, he expressed to us, and this is always something that touches me, right? He used to work with our youth. He was a teacher at Nawahi o Kalani Pu'u in Hilo, Hawaii. He also created curriculum that came out of Hale Kuamo'o, right, which used to pump out curriculum for our Kulakaya Puni, you know, out there. And when I asked him, you know, what made you, besides your name, besides your family, you know, almost like your family kuleana to help, you know, in the progress of our people, you know, what made you become the person that's going to share these perspectives today? And he said, you know, when I had to create my own curriculum as a social studies teacher over there, I had to go and research this, and this is things that, you know, should be out there, you know. And I agree, for most of you guys are out there, this information might be brand new to you, right? Elements of our history that have not been taught in our schools, especially if you're my age, if you're 35 and above, this wasn't taught every day in your schools, right? In our schools. But for some of us, we've gotten more ma'a to this ike, you know, and able to discuss it on different levels. And so when I asked Kawika that, you know, what kind of informs this perspective that you have, you know, he was like, yeah, I really had to go and research that, you know, research this part of history. But he also has a whole nother, you know, skill set that has to do all the way up until this day with Malama Aina, with taking care at various levels, being very aware of what's going out there on our Aina, from, you know, from the beginning of how Aina is being used all the way up to, you know, the business elements of it, you know, and seeing what the economic drivers are and the futures are of all of us. So I could go on, and I have a tendency to go on and on, so I'll cut it right there, you know, and just say that I'm mahalo Kawika for coming today and being the person that he is, and I look forward, like you all will, to his very rich presentation today. Yeah, aloha mai Kawika.
Mahalo, aloha mehana, velina, aloha kako. Thank you for having me on this afternoon. And yeah, definitely just a very interesting subject about the political organizing and engagement of the Lahui in the territorial era. And so it is area I've done a little bit of research on, and just such an area, a rich area of our history, so many stories and interesting facts that I've come across that, yeah, perhaps are not that well known. And so, yeah, looking forward to just sharing a little bit more, some highlights from that era and talking story with everyone here today. So mahalo nui, mehana to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs for putting this together. So maybe just to start off on the first slide, I'd like to talk just a little bit, maybe to put it in context, establishing the right to vote and representation in government. Next slide, Joel. And so Hina and Davis had previously talked about kind of the traditional Hawaiian involvement and engagement in supporting and selecting our ali'i and those who govern in Hawaii, you know, and relating to the traditional saying, "Iali'i no ke ali'i ke kanaka," right? The chief is the chief because of the people, and it was the people that supported the good chiefs, and when times called for it, removing chiefs and putting in good chiefs. And one of those good chiefs that we celebrate till today is Kauikeoli, Kamehameha III, who first of all established a constitutional monarchy. And in the Constitution of 1840 that he granted to the Hawaiian people, he gave the maka'ainana the right to vote and to elect representatives in the Hawaiian Kingdom government. And so that is where, you know, at least on an official voting level for the government, that right came from, was Kauikeoli and the Constitution of 1840. Another just interesting, you see, beginning in the 1840s and continuing on really throughout the 1800s, after the mahele and after various elections, is expression, the Hawaiian language newspapers, articles, letters, petitions even, expressing ownership of land, loss of land, access to land by Hawaiian people in the communities, as well as control of the government, who would be allowed to represent the people, and voting rights in Hawaii are all common themes of engagement, of discussion in the Hawaiian language newspapers during that time. Next slide. And so during those times, the 1800s, again, just kind of putting it in context, there were a number of political parties that began to be established in the islands. Beginning really early on, you know, after Kamehameha Eha passed away without an heir, there was an election between William Charles Lunalilo and Kalakaua. And so you had certain portions of the population, you know, voting or supporting either Lunalilo or Kalakaua. And then in the subsequent election, even more so with Queen Emma and Kalakaua. And you started to see people referring to themselves as the Emmaites, those who supported Queen Emma. And during these years, there was a number of political parties and organizations that were formed in Hawaii, in the Hawaiian Kingdom. The National Reform Party, or the National Party rather, the Reform Party, the National Reform Party, the Hui Aloha Aina, Hawaiian National Party, Liberal Party, Native Sons, and really these are just a handful. There was actually a number of additional political parties formed during the 1800s, the later 1800s in particular. One of these, just to point out in this slide, was the Hui Aloha Aina. Hui Aloha Aina today maybe most associated with the later, you know, the overthrow period and protesting annexation. But really the Hui Aloha Aina was formed in 1888 after the Bayonet Constitution, where the Bayonet Constitution in 1887 that was kind of forced upon King Kalakaua, hence the name, the Bayonet Constitution, did two things. One was it removed power from the li'inui, from the mo'i. And second is that it increased the qualifications for voting and for office, and so it limited the franchise the ability to vote of Native Hawaiians in the kingdom. And so the Hui Aloha Aina was formed as a result of that in order to restore power to the mo'i, to restore voting rights to the maka'ainana, and to support candidates in the 1890 election. And John Bush was the first president. James Kaulia, S.W. Lokai, D.W. Pua were the vice presidents. And in subsequent years, David Kalau Kalani became the president of the Hui Aloha Aina. Next slide. Another party that I think most people now are familiar with is the Hui Aloha Aina. And the founders, Joseph Navahi o Kalani o Pu'u, who is also the editor of the Nupepa Aloha Aina, J.K. Kaunamano, J.W. Bipikane, and the president James Kaulia, as well as, next slide, the Hui Aloha Aina Navahine, and founded by Emily McFarlane, Patty Berger, Abigail Kuaihelani Campbell, and Emma Navahi. And I think an important note here is that, you know, in studying the political history in the Hawaiian Kingdom and in the territory and the political parties, that women played a very large role in the organizing, in the motivating of the Hawaiian electorate, in the engagement of the Hawaiian electorate, in getting out the vote, in organizing rallies and in communicating as well through the newspapers. And so the next slide points out the purpose of the Hui Aloha Aina, and this is straight from the Kumu Hina, or the Constitution, that identified two of the main purposes of the Hui Aloha Aina, and one being to maintain the independent autonomy of Hawaii. And I think that's the purpose that we're all most familiar with, right? There was a very strong movement after the illegal overthrow to restore the monarchy, and then to protest and to oppose annexation. But the second purpose was, if independence is rendered impossible, to secure for the Hawaiian people and its citizens the continuance of their civil rights. And so I think this is the area that we're going to see kind of the focus shift later on in the history. But I think it is important to note that the Hui Aloha Aina and the Hui Aloha Aina, those two organizations, were able to successfully organize over, I'm not sure exactly what the percentages were, but over 90%, over 95% of the Hawaiian electorate at the time in 1897. They garnered over 20,000 signatures, you know, what today we refer to as the Ku'e petitions. And indeed, they successfully defeated the Treaty of Annexation in the United States Senate. And so they achieved that goal in 1897. And it was an incredible, really, engagement and organizing of the Hawaiian community at that time. Next slide. And then, well, during that time period, really, you have the Republic of Hawaii, right? After again, the illegal overthrow, declaring a provisional government, and then a republic in 1894. But I think an interesting fact to note is that it was a republic really in name only. And there was a long period of time where the Hawaiian population was not able to vote in Hawaii, where they were disenfranchised. So already mentioned, really since 1887, and the Bayonet Constitution severely limited those who were eligible to vote. And then we also know that after the overthrow and during the Republic, most Hawaiians did not participate and absolutely did not support that government. And so there was over a decade of time when Hawaiians were not voting, were not able to select the representatives and those who governed Hawaii. And as a matter of fact, it's stated that in the 1894 election, less than 3% of Hawaii's population elected the government. And in 1897, it was even less than 1% of the population in Hawaii elected the leaders during that time. And so you see just a major period of disenfranchisement of the population of the Maka'ainana and their ability to choose their government. Next slide. And so I guess when I was doing research and history, those facts that I just kind of covered, you know, were fairly well known. And then, you know, in 1898, although the Treaty of Annexation was defeated, there was the Spanish-American War, and the United States Congress passed a joint resolution declaring Hawaii annexed to the United States. And next slide, in 1900, the Organic Act was passed, establishing Hawaii as a territory of the United States. And one of the, just my own, I guess, curiosities in doing research at the time was what happened to that very well organized and engaged population of the Hui Aloha Aina, Hui Aina in 1897 and through 1898. And that's what I would like to just maybe touch on a little bit, beginning in the next slide, where in fact, in 1900, after the Organic Act and the territory of Hawaii was formed, the Hui Aloha Aina and the Hui Aina got together, and there was a mass organization, a mass meeting that occurred. James Kaulia, the president of the Hui Aloha Aina, and David Kalani chaired the meeting, in which they organized a new political party called Ka'au'au Ku'oko'a Homelula, or the Independent Home Rule Party. And they decided to come together to form a party to elect representatives to run for office under the territory. And before they did that, I think it's important to note that they consulted with Queen Liliuokalani, and they went and met with her. And it was during that meeting that we have one of her quotes that remains with us today, where she said, "A'oleo kako kuhina hui koi. Koi valea elano ke ia ponoa kea I ha'avi ia mai e Amerika. Ya o kou kalahui. E hopu a pa'a. Ana o kou e ho'oponopono no ka kou no ke ia mua aku." And loosely translated, we have no other way than this expanded right, and referencing the right to vote that we've been granted by America to all of you, the people. And she said to seize it, to hold it fast, and it is for all of you to make right the future for all of us. And so after her blessing, the Home Rule Party was indeed formed, and representatives were selected. And the theme of the Home Rule Party was Kapono Kaulike o ka lehu lehu, equal rights for the people, the civil rights for the people. And next slide. The Home Rule Party actually dominated the 1900 elections, and really dominated and had a major role in the early territorial politics of the territory of Hawaii. They first nominated the Honorable Robert Wilcox, Willie Koki, and he was indeed elected and sent to the United States Congress as Hawaii's representative. The Home Rule Party won 9 out of 15 seats in the Territorial Senate, and David Kalani became a senator in the territorial government. They also won 22 out of 30 seats in the House of Representatives. In the screen here, we see on the right side, Frederick William Kahapula Beckley Jr., a delegate from Molokai, who became the Vice Speaker of the House. He was interpreted for the Hawaiian Supreme Court under the Kingdom. He was in the inaugural class of Kamehameha School for Boys in 1891 and became the Vice Speaker of the territorial government. In the middle, we have Joseph Akina, a lawyer from Waimea, Kauai, who served in the Kingdom and then became the first Speaker of the territory. And in the next slide, we see some of the agenda, some of the legislation that the Home Rule Party moved through the legislature. And I think it's just very interesting if you look at the bills they submitted, if you think about it, how familiar they are. And some of these things are just submitted in the legislation this year, actually. Removing taxes from taro lands, actually submitted this year again to try to do that. Restoring the Hawaiian language, supporting sending Hawaiian students to study abroad, and organizing local county governments. And so while some of these were not achieved at that time, we all know that policy oftentimes takes multiple efforts and years to achieve. And many of these policies, these laws did subsequently pass. In the next slide, it shows some of the bills that did pass under the Home Rule Party and that they're in the first legislature. Exemption of personal property from forced sale. So in collections, ensuring that personal property needed to survive would not be a forced sale or taken from the maka'ainana. Requiring that the laws be promulgated in both English and in Hawaiian. Protecting laborers and employees from extortion from their employers. And then a settlement payment actually to Queen Liliuokalani as well was passed in 1901. And so anyway, just highlighting just some of the bills and the policy, I think again relevant for us today to look back and some of the things that have been lobbied for in policy that have been established really since the beginning of the territorial government. In the next slide, another interesting component of this time is that the Hawaiians also formed the Democratic Party in Hawaii, where John Wilson, who subsequently became mayor, Charles McCarthy, who served in the House of Nobles, was a supporter of Liliuokalani and became a territorial senator, was a founding member. And then the ali'i, David Kawana Nakoa, Prince of the Hawaiian Kingdom, served in the Privy Council under Liliuokalani and became the Democratic Party's candidate for Congress and ran second to Wilcox in that first election. It should also be noted that Emma Navahi did not join the Home Rule Party, but out of loyalty to the ali'i, Kawana Nakoa joined the Democratic Party. Many of the founding members of the Democratic Party were the former members of the Hui Aloha Aina and Hui Kalai Aina as well. Edward Lili Kalani, a former member of the Privy Council and became a House of Representative member in the territory. John E. Bush, who served in the cabinet of Kalakaua, was served as a governor under Kalakaua on Kauai and was the president of the Hui Kalai Aina, was a founder of the Democratic Party, along with John Wise in the middle as well, who served with Willie Koki in the coup of 1895, was a Hawaiian language interpreter in 1901, and later switched to the Republican Party to work with Prince Kuhio Kalanianaole on establishing the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. And then in the next slide, we see that although the Hawaii Republican Party was indeed initially the party of the annexationists, and Sanford Dole and his cohort joined the Republican Party, their candidate for the U.S. Congress was Samuel Parker, who served in the Privy Council under Kalakaua and was the Minister of Foreign Affairs under Liliuokalani. We also know, of course, that Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaole transitioned from the Home Rule Party to the Republican Party in 1902, became their delegate to Congress, and then defeated Willie Koki in the subsequent election and served until his death in 1922, representing Hawaii in the United States Congress. John Lane, another prominent Hawaiian who served in the Territorial Senate and was instrumental in working with Kuhio to establish the city and county of Honolulu. That was another, excuse me, of their themes and kind of agenda was creating home rule, right? The home rule party, creating local governments in Hawaii. And so in the next slide, we see that the mayors of Honolulu, really until the middle of the century, were all Native Hawaiians and contemporaries of all of the people I previously mentioned. You know, Joseph Fern, serving both from 1909 to 1915 and again from 1917 to 1920. John Lane serving after Joseph Fern. John Wilson serving for 2 separate terms, or actually 3 separate terms. Charles Arnold, even Neil Blaisdell, being a part Hawaiian and a great grandson of John Cummings, actually serving as mayor of Honolulu. So, you know, these parties, these representatives, our kupuna, started off as the Hui Aina, Hui Aloha Aina, and then ended up really having a significant influence again in each of the parties, creating the local governments and then dominating those local governments as well. And so some of the takeaways, I guess, just for myself, is that the Kupa of Hawaii, the Makainana, have been an integral part of selecting and supporting the leadership in Hawaii really since time immemorial. Again, from the story of Umi and Hakau until our present. And that right to vote and select our leadership was further established through Kawi Keoli, and giving us the right to vote. And that running for office and voting is not something that has always come easy in Hawaii. And it is not something that we should take for granted. And it's one of the key issues that our kupuna organized for, lobbied for, engaged in preserving, and expanded and fought to restore when it was taken away. And so these Hawaiian and civic political organizations have been working to preserve and protect and expand the rights of the Makainana and the civil and traditional rights of our people for generations.
Is it 2? Okay, and Uncle, I'm starting this asking. So I'm doing this presentation right now. All right, please.
Mehana and Davis, I'll turn it back over to you.
How's it? Right on. No, mahalo for that, Kawika. Awesome. Wow, that was a great presentation. Am I on? Can you folks hear me? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. You know, there's some good questions coming in on the feed. You know, I you know, one that stands out is you know, how what took place with our natural resources during that period. So you talked a lot about the decision making that how we politically organized, our kupuna, you know, got organized politically. We're very, very, very engaged. At the time of annexation, I don't know, can you elaborate a little bit or expound a little bit? And I know it's not directly, you know, we're not talking about natural resources, but how management of resources kind of transitioned with the lands being ceded. You know, because we talked about Kalo and
right.
The bills that you mentioned. Anything that you can point to, just share a little bit about the transition of how that.
Yeah, a little bit. Not necessarily my area of expertise, but knowing, like, so I think this does tie into Dr. Kamana Beamer's presentation last week, right, about the fact that both the Constitution and the laws under the kingdom actually preserved a lot of the traditional structure. And he was referencing the maps, but the mahele, the naming of the places, but also establishing, right, koi vale no ke kuleana o ke kanaka, right, preserving the rights of the Hoa Aina was established under the Hawaiian Kingdom, as well as the rights of the Konohiki as well. And what you do see under at least the provisional government, Republic of Hawaii, and even the territorial government, is you do start to see some of those rights that were established under the Hawaiian Kingdom start to be taken away, right? The ahupua'a fishing rights and constant pressure being put on traditional and customary rights. And so, that is definitely something you see in those laws and in the subsequent governments. And yet it was those rights established under the Hawaiian Kingdom that were acknowledged at least in the state constitution, right? Traditional and customary rights, and that those are the same rights established under the kingdom that a lot of the work that you all on the panel are continuing to fight to preserve and protect and perpetuate as well. But yeah, you definitely see the diminishing of some of those rights during the subsequent governments and laws that were passed.
Right. Awesome. Mahalo. That's a very it's a very complex time. I touched real briefly on it in our first episode and shared some olelo just about some background on some individuals at the time. And what stood out to me about those individuals was the transition from the kingdom and being part of leadership in the kingdom. And while there was injustice that took place, right, there were things that the government was stood up without the consent of the people. The control of the resources, that government, the republic, the provisional government, the republic, the territory, assume that control without the consent of the maka'ainana, and you mentioned that 1% during the republic, 1% only 1% of the population have participated in the elections. And despite that, there was still a resolve to stay engaged and exercise their leadership and mana in whatever capacity existed, in whatever government existed. Do you think, in any of your research, how do you think that they kind of framed or contextualized managing that eha, like being imprisoned, Kuhio, Kawana Nakoa, Wilcox, being imprisoned in 1895 for rebelling against or actually defending the kingdom, been coined rebelling, the rebellion against the provisional government, to 5 years later jumping into this political process from a government that really no one empowered, but they seized that power. How do you, in any of your research, was there anything that kind of provides some context about what they were thinking or how they framed their decisions?
Yeah, I guess just some interesting findings. I mean, so again, you look at each of the political parties and the representation, and there is some kind of documentation to the fact that it wasn't non-intentional, right? The purpose was that whichever party was in power, there would be representation, right? And then some of it was more for political alliances, but some of it was, again, you had Kuhio, Kalanian Ole, and Kawana Nakoa, literally brothers, and obviously friends and family, and both princes of the Hawaiian Kingdom, but joining different parties, and for that purpose to ensure representation. And then another, I guess, just to your point though, in studying Kuhio in particular, who I've done some research on, but really that decision to work within the system, as you just stated, and within the political party that was in power at the time, to achieve outcomes that would benefit the people, right? And so one of his greatest achievements, obviously, is the establishment of the Hawaiian Homes Commission and the Hawaiians Home Act, which he passed, and which, if you think about it, was probably virtually impossible, but he achieved it. A non-voting member of Congress for Hawaii, 3,000 miles away, and securing the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. Having your pros and cons about the act and Hawaiian Homes itself, it was a great accomplishment. And again, it was those members that established the local governments as well. And I think that is maybe not well understood, but it had tremendous impact in life today, right? So they created local governments for the purpose of local control at the island level. And that is a result of them. And so, yeah, just doing the best that they could with the system and the parties that were in power at the time.
Right. It's interesting. the formation of the county governments, and we'll just talk story a little bit more for Hina jumps on, but the formation of the county governments and the home rule concept, local governments, the fact that the Hawaiian leadership focused there, I mean, that provides some insight, right? To me, I take that as they knew that despite all of this hell that had taken place, right? Like if there's a way to use whatever tools, mechanisms that are available to empower the community and get the community and the people more, a mana for that, for lack of better words, that the county and that they honed in on the county process. Any other? I mean, I just find that interesting.
Well, there's an important reason why too, right? And that is that the governorship under the territory was appointed by the President of the United States. So I was focusing on the parties and what they did at the territorial level. But let's not forget that the governorship and the cabinet was still appointed by the governor. And so you had Sanford Dole, as the first governor of Hawaii. And I think so that's relevant even today as well, right? So with the parties, the Home Rule Party decided to try to ensure that there was control at the local level, purposely to control local politics and diffuse, being ruled by the governor at the time, definitely.
Right. And just a final thought on that, like, and throughout the territorial period, the territorial legislature, I know that, the Big Five's grip got strengthened, especially after my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, after Kuhio passed away. They, that's when the real, Hawaiians became disenfranchised. But up to that point, majority of the territorial legislature was Hawaiian. Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, so the Home Rule Party disbanded in about 1912. There was a strong alliance, actually, my understanding and in research, with the Home Rule Party and the Democratic Party, where many of the Democrats were voting for the Home Rule Party or vice versa. And so I think you see a steady decline just in general population and that voting bloc. But yeah, again, those mayors of Honolulu continued all the way until the mid 1900s. And so you did have a strong voting bloc and organized, again, Hawaiian electorate for a substantial period of time in the territory. And then there's a kind of a quiet period, and then, the resurgence in the 70s again, right, with the renaissance of the Hawaiian language and culture.
Right on. Yep. Mahalo. And I just want to point that out. It's a great segue for next week. You mentioned how the kingdom, the laws, many of the laws regarding like kuleana lands of the kingdom were incorporated in our constitution. And that was in large part, actually not in large part, it was absolutely due to the engagement of Hawaiians in the Constitutional Convention. And we'll have Governor John Waihe'e on next week to talk about that period. And before we close out and head to Hina, there's one more question in the chat. It says, could you talk about Hawaiians voting today as opposed to 1894? Are there similarities and differences? And you kind of, we'll just leave it. And that's the exact word, so we'll just leave it at that.
I would say just a similarity that I see is, again, so, the Hui Aloha Aina really, and even in those parties and some who helped found those parties were not Hawaiian, right? It's really that value of Aloha Aina. To the earlier question about the natural resources, clearly that was one of the common themes of the Hawaiian electorate, the Maka'ainana, right? The preserving of the natural resources, the malama of the Aina, and those who held those values. And so I think that's kind of the similarities, right? Where it's those who hold those values working together to achieve kind of that vision for Hawaii.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo,
go ahead.
For that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump in and acknowledge that we have some great conversations going on in the chat. and also, you know, look there for some additions, right? People are starting mahalo to Ilima and Keli'i, like filling in, and then of course Poka on Zoom, kind of filling in some of these conversations, you know, with other Ike, with more Ike, not other Ike, but more Ike, about this kind of critical time period. So mahalo for that. I think the only yeah, and I think we gotta have Poka. You can have and your own series almost with a lot of a lot of the information, right? A lot of this is most people spend, you know, whole lifetimes on, or at least, you know, months and weeks being able to share with everybody. So I just wanted to thank everybody who's participating out there, and we'll try to address the questions too, and we might have Kawika look through some of these questions too that are occurring on the side and just kind of fill them in on top of there. And just know that this presentation, right, as it is, with all the comments and questions and so forth, will exist and be housed on the oha.org /vote website. So if you missed it now, if you have other things that you're contemplating, you can always go there to pull this presentation and all the presentations actually back up. Yeah, no, thanks Kawika for that. And sorry, I had my microphone was on. I didn't know and was answering questions from. This is what teleworking at home looks like. Yeah, it's kind of real.
Yeah, mahalo nui Kawika. Appreciate that so much, and so many messages. I think there's a lot of information there that we can process from that period. But again, to connect the dots to today, like you said, the similarities are organizing around values. And really something we haven't talked about yet is it's more than just Hawaiian leadership. It's Hawaiian values and how that does mold the leaders, and that molds our vision and our worldview, and guides how decisions are made. So thank you very much, and appreciate you coming on and spending the time with us. Good luck with the farm.
Thank you. Mahalo nui. Yeah. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, now we want to bring on Kumu Hina. Of course, Kumu Hina Lemoana Wong is here and will introduce us to which mele are you doing today, Kumu Hina?
Oia, mahalo nui ia oe e mihana. Ki aloha nui a kakoa pauloa e nā hoa makamaka kako e launa nei. Mahalo nui o kou no ke kipa ana mai ke wahi manawa o ke papahana mai a mākou ma oha. Kumai e naka naka. Rise up, stand up, my fellow Hawaiians. Now is the time for us to consider the potential for us to impact our future. And to answer Mehana's question, today I'd like to do a review of the first two mele that we did in our other two presentations thus far, and hopefully to touch upon what both Kawika and Davis had mentioned earlier, and that is our philosophy and our mindset behind what we do and why we do. And I would dare to address one of the questions that was posed. And before I do that, aloha poka, mahalo nui. I am very, very intrigued by the questions that you have posed, and I hope that we will be able to engage them at length some point in the upcoming future. The other question, however, was talking about, is it tasteful to speak about the current status of the Democratic Party? And I think the safe answer to this question is the current status of both the Democratic and Republican Party in 2020 is a far different playing field and a far different scope of understanding now versus back then. So in order for us to really take a look at how do we ground ourselves in being kanaka, that's one of the most important things to me, why when we look at our mele and we look at the words, the text of any mele, whether it's contemporary or from the time of our queen, or even pre-contact compositions, it allows us the insight to see how our kupuna, how our ancestors thought, how they viewed the world, and how they really saw everything in and around their lives. Ke olu olu, next slide, please. Kumaia naweli ke kako, the time to act is now. And with that said, let us review the first mele to once again talk about exactly how is it that our people see the world. Next slide. Iloko no keia mele o kulani hakoi. It speaks to the legendary place within the heavens that it's almost as if you could reach up and touch it, but it's high enough that you're going to work a whole lot more to get there. And it's right there, and it's the thick, dark clouds that bring much needed rain to our lands. And as the words say, kulani hakoi kau mai lai luna ehu, and the cloud formation that is set there, and it's so laden with moisture, ehu means it rises and overflows. Aua mai laha ua, and the rain falls. Ua. Kela no kakako olelo, no rain. Ua. Kupu mai laha kupu. And from this rain, the sprouts will now sprout, they will germinate, and they will come to life. Mu'o mai laha mu'o, aliko mai laha liko. And all of the budding things in the life around us will come, and they will emerge into being, and you'll see them. When we think about making lei, and we say liko lehua, some of the most important aspects of our beautiful lei, especially as found on Hawaiʻi Island, for example, where there is a great abundance of lehua, is that liko in the early budding stage. Alao mai lahalao, and the leaves, they unfurl and they expand out because they need to receive the life-giving rains, the life-giving light and the warmth of the sun. Alala mai lahalala, and the branches reach out and they stretch as far as they can. Kumu mai laha kumu, and the trunk of that plant, especially if it's going to become a tree or a very sturdy, hardy shrub, it will grow and grow and grow until it becomes immovable. Kumu pa'a hina ole. Akumu, until it's pa'a, it's so steadfast. Hina ole, meaning hina in this way, to topple over. So when something grows and it is immovable, or it is extremely difficult to take it down, we can extrapolate from the mele that it's speaking to us. It's speaking from a literal standpoint of a living, growing thing, in this case, a tree, perhaps. However, metaphorically, this is reaching out to speak to us as a people, us as people who now we need to be resilient in ways that perhaps we may not have been before. Ulu means to grow, and ho'olu means to make something grow. So if you can all imagine, for those of you out there in viewer land, that anything and everything we do now, we must consider the very opportunity before us as Kanaka to adhere to some of the basic principles of being Kanaka, and to hold ourselves to a higher standard and a higher expectation other than perhaps what we may have been up until this point. Let's review again the words. E kulani hakoi kau maila iluna e hu. Aua maila aua, a kupu maila a kupu. A mu'o maila a mu'o, a liko maila a liko. A lau maila a lau, a la la maila a la la. A kumu maila a kumu, a kumu hina ole. E ho'oulu mai, e ho'oulu mai, a ulu mai la e. No leila e nā hoa launa, ke olu e hui pu mea'u, a e oli pu kākou, makaukau pā. E ko lani hako I kau mai lai luna e hu. A ua mai laha ua, kupu mai laha kupu, a mu'o mai laha mu'o, a liko mai laha liko, a lau mai laha lau, a la mai laha la, a kumu mai laha kumu, a kumu hina ole. E ho'oulu mai, e ho'oulu mai, a ulu mai laha e, hana ho e kulani hako I, kau mai lahi luna e hu. A ua mai laha ua, kupu mai laha kupu, a mu'o mai laha mu'o, a liko mai laha liko, a lau mai laha lau, a la mai laha la, a gumu mai laha gumu, a gumu hina ole. E ho'oulu mai, e ho'oulu mai, a ulu mai laha e. Hana ho last time, e ku lani hako I, kau mai lai luna e hu. A ua mai laha ua, kupu mai laha kupu, a mu'o mai laha mu'o, a liko mai laha liko, a lau mai laha lau, a la mai laha la, a kumu mai laha kumu, a kumu hina ole. E ho'oulu mai, e ho'oulu mai, a ulu mai laha e. No leila e nā hoa launa, ke la no ka olelo no keia mele, e kulani hakoi. He ano pule ho'oulu. In many ways, we can consider this a pule. And this pule could be potentially used to encourage growth from the physical living plant, but also for the purpose of why I bring it to you today in review is because I leave it out there to hopefully inspire you. When we consider how our Kanaka view the world, we know that our people conceptualize things oftentimes by everything around us in our living environment, and thus by encouraging and speaking about the life-giving rains. That rain, that water can be viewed as our education and the knowledge which we are able to then translate into making clear decisions, considering what are the opportunities before us and considering what we have to do in terms of awamo kuleana and fulfilling our responsibility and our duty to not only ourselves, our ohana, to our land, and to our people, and to our flag, such as the flag you see behind me. No leila e nā hoa launa, ke la no ko kākou oli ho ana ia mele ia pule ho'olu for kulani hakoi. Next slide, please. So you might say, well, who am I? I'm not anybody special. And my response to you, as I mentioned to you all last week, is that neither am I. Like wale noa like kaua. You and I are the same. We breathe and we have needs, we have wants, and we have views. Sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't. But together, putting our ideas, putting our understanding together, and by offering our voices up in unison, we can and will make a difference. Next slide, please. Now, before I go into this review of this
It's
mele,
3 o'clock.
Mahalo. Mele ʻOnipaʻa mau no ke Aloha Aina. And for those of you who may have seen Poka Lainui's questions posed, I send this mele out to you today, friend, because let me see if I can pull it up, because I'd like to speak to it. In Poka's response to me, how did our Kanaka respond? They learned to walk that crooked path straight. They walked that crooked path within the U.S. system, but maintained their loyalty and integrity as Aloha Aina. And by working underneath the system, such songs like Mele Aipohaku and others, for me, that's exactly how I feel about what we do. No matter how we engage, no matter what our decisions are, as long as we never lose sight and we never lose focus of being Aloha Aina, loving our people, loving our land, loving our language and our culture. And I speak not only to Kanaka, not only to Native Hawaiians, I speak to other Kama'aina, and I also speak to other folks, Malihini as well, because it is ever so possible that we can all love this land and do right by the land and the sea that surround us. No leila, e hime ni kako, e hime ni hou no ia mele mai ke la pule aku nei, e ia mai no o mele ʻOnipaʻa mau no ke aloha aina. Aloha e ku'u aina o Hawaii'i, nani ka maha o ka honua o la haumea, me ka moana nui a kanaloa, au he ala e nā mamo e nā ka maoia aina aloha kumaia kuilima nau e like ho'i kako e ala e na mamo e o ka la hui e o Hawaii'i e kukana ka e no ka hae aloha ʻOnipaʻa mau no ke aloha aina e mahalo i ka hoʻoilina ka nohona ka Hawaiʻi no e au ka ike kupuna he wai no I amua aku na ka mana mai ka lani mai e ho'oholo mua ya ka ko pai o maoa ho'okupa'a no ka hano lili ulani he ala e na mo e o ka la hui e o Hawaii'i e kukana ka e no ka hae aloha ʻOnipaʻa mau no ke aloha aina. Mahalo anui. Hold on one moment, Jewel. I'd like to acknowledge my colleague Jewel for sending the cursor out there and making sure that all of you could see the words. Let's review very briefly from the beginning of this mele in English, and please read along with me as you are sitting there in front of your computer or your phone or whatever device that you are watching on. The English reads, I love, honor, and cherish my land. Beautiful Hawaiʻi in all her astonishing wonder. The living earth of Mother Haumea and the vast ocean of Kanaloa. To the next generation, step up and out. Children of this beloved land, stand tall and unite and move forward together. Next slide. Rise, everyone, it is time to awaken all of our beloved descendants of our nation, our island people, of esteemed and honored Hawaii. Stand as Kanaka, remember your heritage. Stand for our beloved flag, symbol of our nation. Be steadfast and vigilant always for our cause in defending and loving our land. We are ever grateful for the legacy left to us, for our Hawaiian way of life. Ever enduring is the wisdom of our ancestors, the treasure trove for future generations. Blessed from heavens upon high, driving and forging us onward and upward. Fight on, hold fast, and never give up, for the glory and honor of our Queen, Liliuokalani. Let us please Himeni Ho one more time, because I do believe we still have a little bit of time left. Ke olu olu, e hana ho. All right, everyone. I ask everyone to sit up and to consider that if you sing any one of my compositions, whether it be Mele Kuha Aheo or the composition made famous by that absolutely fabulous gentleman and friend of mine, Mr. Josh Tatofi, the mele that we created for the Lahui, any of the mele that I have put time into and helped to bring into creation, I ask you to sing with that passion, with that fervor, with that commitment and dedication to who we are as Kanaka, to who we are as a people. And no matter whether we find ourselves walking together and in accord and in agreement with each other, or whether we find ourselves on opposite sides of viewpoints, no matter what they are, let us do our best to try to always remember to have a level of diplomacy and a sense of duty to one another, that even when we don't agree, we should speak how we feel, but still retain that aloha in our hearts. And from personal experience, I've been quite critical of efforts in the past, probably in my 30s, and I remember I could have burned a lot of bridges for a long time. But now, as having recently made 48, I can say that there's lots to be said for having an understanding that we can agree to disagree. But when we have aloha in our heart, especially since there's so few of us nowadays, that's got to be one of our goals, is to still aloha each other even when we don't agree. Himeni ho kako e na hoalauna, ke olu olu makaukau pa. Aloha e ku'u aina o Hawaiʻi, nani ka maha o ka honua o la haumea, me ka moana nui a kanaloa, au he ala e na mamo, e na ka maoia aina aloha, kumaia kuilima nau e like ho'i kako. He alaha e na mamo e o ka lahui e o Hawaii i e kukana ka e no ka hai aloha ʻOnipaʻa mau no ke aloha aina. E mahalo I ka hoʻoilina, ka nohona ka Hawaiʻi. No e au ka ike kupuna, he wai no ia mua aku. Na ka mana mai ka lani mai, e ho'oholo mua ia kākou. Pai o maua ho'okupa'a, no ka hano lili ulani. He alaha e na mo e o ka la hui e o Hawaiʻi e. Kukanaka e no ka hae aloha. ʻOnipaʻa mau no ke aloha aina. Mahalo, mahalo, everyone. 1 second, hold on here. Sitting at home all these days and not being able to go out and sing outdoors leaves the voice a little bit unworked. No leila e na hoa launa. E nau e mua nā po ki ia inu ai awa. E vivo ole a ho o kupa'a a o he hope e hoi mai ai. A na i wale no kākou kau ko e maui ke ala a we ke aloha ole a ka malihini. Forward, brothers and sisters, forward, friends and family. Be fearless, be steadfast. There is no turning back. Let us overcome, let us surmount, and let us champion all of the obstacles in front of us and go straight down the road, for there is no resting of the outside interests and efforts that would go against the very hearts and the essence of being who we are as kanaka. No leila, he hala ka hopena o ka la hui kanaka. What will be the fate of the Hawaiians? That, my friends, is up to you to decide. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo.
Hey, mahalo. Mahalo Kumu Hina. Sorry, Davis. I just jumped in. I wanted to thank you because I love these mele. But yeah, go ahead, Davis.
No, I was just going to say mahalo. Go ahead.
So thank you again for all of you guys who are joining us from far and near today. We hope you've enjoyed and learned something different or engaged in the conversations that are happening, that are kind of robustly happening within the comments of the different pages. And I've only been able to, and I think, monitor Oha's page, and I don't see any new questions that were brought up, and thank you, Hina, for addressing the questions that were popping up on the Zoom here. And again, Kawika Burgess, mahalo nui, with a wealth of information and experience, in dealing with civic engagement. That's we hope to always bring that to all of you out there every week. And Davis, can you share a little bit about what's happening again next week for some of them who weren't on earlier?
Yep. So next week we will be touching on the Hawaiian Renaissance of the 1970s and the 1978 Con. And I just want to, and that'll be covered. We'll be talking story about that with Governor John Waihe'e, who was instrumental, one of the leaders of the Hawaiian group that went into the Con.
Davis lives in Makiki, that's why. That's a common sound over there.
Right down the road from the fire station. Governor John Waihe'e will be joining us next week. Obviously, he was a former governor, but prior to that, activist, lawyer, and a one of the delegates to the Constitutional Convention in 1978 that Kawika touched on in terms of being a very important document. Obviously, it's our state constitution, but it having, you know, in that 1978 CONCON, those Hawaiians that participated were a minority of the delegates, and yet they were able to integrate many of the laws from our Hawaiian kingdom and reinforce some and add some, and really established the foundation for our traditional and customary rights. So I look forward to a great conversation with Governor Waihe'e, and I want to mahalo Kawika again. He dropped a wealth of knowledge on us today, and mahalo nui, because I know it's very difficult to capture so much information in this short period of time, and I learned that challenge from our first episode. So mahalo to all of our guests for taking this on. It's a challenge to talk about such important issues and important periods of time in such a short time period. So mahalo, you did it well, brother, and appreciate that.
You know, and one of the things that, because we know that, right? Because we know that not everything can fit into an hour time frame or even an hour, half, or 2 hours, 3 hours, right? We just do this all day and actually then get into perspectives. I think what is really important for everyone to know is that this is just the jumping off point, right? This is the part where we get everybody engaged. If there's new information to you, good. Like, this is a starting point. Like, there's, you know, Kawika, Kamana, you know, Davis and Hina have given you reference enough to then go and take that knowledge further. And for some of you, this has been your life, right? Your life's work has been engaged in this, right? So know that there are audiences out there who still want to, right? That this is fresh information, or want to engage at varying levels. So yeah, that's what we hope to give. We don't hope to answer, you know, all or have solutions for everything coming out of this one show, but yeah, it's been great. Kawika, you have any last words for everybody out there?
No, just mahalo nui. Thank you for having me. Interesting discussion. And yeah, I think we're just scratching the surface. There's so many more intriguing aspects of our history and the acts of our kupuna that we can learn from. So mahalo nui.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Thank you again so much, Kawika, for that. We have a survey that's in our Zoom chat right now, and we'll go and put it into the Facebook chat too. That we want you guys all to partake in. It is really helps us. It really helps guide us to see if we're on the right track with what we're offering. And if you guys have any, you know, comments or suggestions for making it better, we really do welcome that. You know, so thanks for that. And I hope this helps all of us understand not only civic engagement in today, but also that we come from a legacy of that, right? We come from a legacy of kind of problem solving through our times, adapting and moving and navigating, you know, through the many currents and tides that have approached our people and our islands. Yep. Join us again next week.
Mehana, we can go back to the slides real quick. We just have some last minute.
Oh yes,
just to wrap up some information. You know, we talked a lot about political organizing today, the legacy, like you said, of our kupuna, and really what this show is about, connecting kuleana. So we take all this history, we get a better understanding. We start these discussions. We're not. This isn't meant to be a UH class, because if it was, each of these topics would cover a semester. But we're trying to spark discussions and really get each other more comfortable with talking about the issues and talking about, you know, looking to our past, and not just in learning that it's not, you know, obviously a lot of us are ma'a with the ʻAupua'a system, and we know that the land degradation that we face and the mistreatment and mismanagement of our resources is problematic. And so we look to the ike of our kupuna for guidance on how to fix those systems and how to malama aina properly and be good stewards. But we also can look to the legacy of our kupuna for how to engage, how to exercise our mana, how to be leaders, and that we should be confident to do so because we have that legacy. So mahalo to everybody. And one of those things one easy way that all of us can participate to exercise mana is to vote. And this year, we have a new voting system, and everybody will be getting their ballots in the mail. And you have to be registered. Once you're registered, you will get a ballot in the mail. So we're trying to remind everybody about critical dates. You have to be registered by, can you go back to the previous slide, please? You have to be registered by July 9th in order to receive your ballot in the mail. Then July 21st, the ballots will start being sent out, and then we're recommending that you get the ballots in sent back in by August 5th. So go ahead and make sure you're registered. You can visit our oha.org/vote page. And this is just something, part of this new process is they're giving everyone, the elections office is giving everyone, all the registered voters, an opportunity to reconfirm or update your signature. So just last weekend, these signature cards started dropping in the mail. If you saw it, hopefully you didn't throw it away. It's not required, so don't feel like if you didn't get it or threw it away that you're not going to be able to vote. Please don't think that. But it's highly encouraged that everybody signs their signature and sends it back in. Our understanding is that the way that the elections office is using these signature cards is when you submit your ballot, you'll sign it, you send it in the mail. When they're registering the votes, they will compare these signature cards with or whatever signature they have on file with the signature on the ballot to make sure that they match up. So the other good thing about about this is about the signature card, important piece of information about the signature card is if you received it, that means you're registered to vote, your address is up to date. So if you didn't receive one, please go register. Please go check your the voter registration page to make sure your address is updated. Yeah. So mahalo everybody. We're gonna keep reminding everyone. If you guys have questions about the voting process, please throw it in the chat. We're not the elections office. I have questions myself, but we got a holomua, and we're gonna try and answer as many questions as possible. So yep, please keep tuning in and look forward to a great discussion with Governor Waihe'e next week and more mele from Kumu Hina. Aloha.
Hui kako. Aloha.